Are you seeking guidance on your spiritual journey? Need help with a vexing problem? Missing a loved one and looking for answers? Look no further than Psychic Insights, a small trusted psychic service offering mediums, psychics, and spiritual coaching. This service is managed by Hollis Taylor, a gifted psychic medium, astrologer, and a compassionate coach. We are dedicated to helping you navigate your spiritual awakening. At Psychic Insights, we provide medium readings and psychic insight to help you plan for tomorrow and make choices for today. Find the support you need, compassionate grief coaching, and astrological insights to help you spiritually grow and transform. Our professional services include well-managed schedules, recorded sessions, and reliable psychic mediums ready to facilitate your transformational experience. Discover more at psychicinsights.life.
Hello. Welcome everyone. How you guys doing out there? How are we doing? I hope you all are doing well. It's a lot of astrology going on. Today's the my learning circle, so that means that I invite you to ask any questions you'd like to ask, and I'll do everything I can. Hi, Tawny and Ro. You're watching from Australia. What time is it there? It's probably Wednesday morning-ish. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. And so we're broadcasting around, including in Discord, including in the group, and just reaching out to you guys and letting you know that you can ask questions at any time. So you can ask questions about it's 11:06 on Wednesday. See, Tawny? That's not bad. It's pretty good considering I didn't even look it up. Oh no. Well, I hope you keep your connection, right? You got cyclone winds and crazy weather in Australia right now. The world is such a crazy place, huh? So today we'll be doing I'll be answering questions, any questions that you have about anything, right? Because I'm an astrologer, a medium, a mentor. I can offer some teaching. I can offer your guidance of any kind that you might like. But today, so I can't think of a topic I don't really talk about. Most of my topics are related to psychic or metaphysical or witchcraft and mental health too. I think because I personally come from a very holistic belief system about being human, in that if we take care of our physical body and our emotional body and our spiritual body, that we will we'll live a better life for it. Okay. So that's kind of how I see things. And I've been, since I was a teenager, when I was a teenager, I got very interested in, more darker things. It was the 80s, so you can just forgive me already, right? Okay. And I went through a time where I started exploring all sorts of things, and I started to explore, witchcraft and all sorts of things, including mediumship. And that was when I first started to try to communicate with spirits, usually in like houses or in buildings, sometimes on land. And I was not really sure of myself back then. I didn't really become sure of myself as a medium until I was more like 25, which at that point I had pretty much gone full on as a pagan or a witch. I was studying Wicca at the time. And my father died. I think my dad actually died, and then I started exploring witchcraft. But because if you didn't know this, when someone really important in your life dies, hi Melissa, hi, it's good to see you. I'm glad you're here. When someone dies in a person's life, typically it is a catalyst. I mean, sometimes it's stronger than other times for people. But when I lost my dad, it was a pretty serious thing for me. And I was in my 20s and I was just beginning my Saturn returns, really. And it was hard. It was the first like serious death that I dealt with of someone that was very close to me, right? And that was kind of that's why I was like in a chat room actually in AOL, and I was really into John Edwards at the time. I was watching like the TV show, and back then you didn't just I don't know, the only way to really get like a psychic reading was to like call one on like an 800 number maybe. At least that's what I was aware of. And anyway, I was on AOL, and there was a medium in there, and she started channeling my dad, and I was like, whoa, that's my dad, right? And then later she sort of passed it on to me, and she taught me how to do it because I showed an interest, and then and I started doing it more and more often, and I did it accurately for some people, to my surprise. And then I just sort of um I just sort of grew from there. So I started by doing it in chat rooms. Tani said I used to do that, haha, until mom absolutely slapped the life out of me when the phone bill came. Oh no. Oh no, Tani. Oh no, I'm sorry. Oh man, I made that mistake once when I was like 20. Oh man, I know all about it. Oh man. Yeah, exactly. That's how I was aware of it, because I made that mistake. Yeah. So, and if you remember back then in the AOL chat rooms, now this is, back in like late 90s. Um back in the AOL chat room days, there were like chat rooms for like different TV shows and different themes and different things you could be into. And there was like a John Edwards crossing over. If you remember John Edwards show Crossing Over, there was like a crossing over chat room. And so that's where I was hanging out. I was like, oh, cool, crossing over, like John Edwards, cool, and I jumped in there. John Edwards was not in there, but some other mediums were, and I'm glad that I did. I was clearly meant to do it. I'll tell you what, just that action in itself created a domino effect that I could quickly tell you how the dominoes felt. So I went in, got a reading from a woman in a chat room that I had just sixth sense I should go into this chat room, called The Other Side. And I went in, got a reading. It was my dad. She inspired me to learn mediumship. She taught me, the same woman that did the reading for me, she taught me how to do mediumship. And then she brought me up in her chat room and was like, go ahead and see what you can get, Hollis. And I started doing it. And out of that, I channeled a woman's mother, who we'll call her Missy. You'll sometimes see her in the group, in the medium group, and sometimes on these pages. Her name is Missy Berger, and I did a reading for her. I just started channeling a spirit, and it ended up being her mom. It was incredibly accurate, and we became friends. Okay, and she was on like my email list. Remember when you used to forward joke emails? Remember when you would get a joke email and then you would forward it? So I forwarded a joke from a friend of a completely unrelated friend of mine to her. And then somehow he eventually replied to it, and she seen his hilarious reply. It was actually her joke email to him. And then he replied with something funny. And the two of them hooked up. They got married years later. Like, so first so first they hooked up, then we all kind of became friends, and we were all kind of working together and really close friends and really good friends, and that went on for a long time, like 10 years. And then eventually she did marry him. Yes, I was at their wedding. And then yes, and the whole time she knows I'm a medium, right? And she's sort of watching me grow. There was even a period of time that when she moved in with him, when she married him, that I was living in a mansion, and I was a medium there. And one of the reasons that they hired me at that mansion to take care of the man that had inherited the mansion was because I was a medium. And so I could talk to the spirits in the house. And it's an old house, never been bought or sold. It's only been inherited. And the house was actually built right after the Revolutionary War, before the Civil War. And in fact, the deed was signed by George Washington, like the deed for the land. It's cool. They have the deed framed. It's in the hallway. It's a totally weird thing. And when she moved from Florida and he moved from New Jersey, this house that I'm talking about where I lived was in Maryland. So they both kind of came to my house and we did Thanksgiving together. And then the two of them went home to New Jersey. And she lived in New Jersey from that point forward, I think for like 10 years. She lives there now, but they eventually got a divorce. They did eventually get a divorce, but they were together for a long time. But she doesn't hold me accountable for that. But me and her are still friends to this day. So mediumship, there's a sequence of events that I don't think anyone could have predicted. Like, I mean, it was just a sequence, and I'm still friends with her to this day. And in fact, she was trying to navigate. She got a new boyfriend, husband. She got a new husband, and she married a new guy. And I met him, and he was totally cool. And then he developed an unfortunate brain cancer, and he was facing his death, and she walked with him all the way through it, like all the way up to the edge of it, where he was gonna die, and even up to the moment he was laying in his bed. And she knew I was a death midwife, right? So she called me and she's like, "You're the only person I know I can ask, but what do I do? I feel terrible. I love him. I don't want to lose him, but he's suffering so much and he won't die." There's that moment where they're lingering longer than you really want. And so I told her, "Go ahead, grab his hand, tell him it's okay." And she was like, "I've done that." I was like, "Okay, we'll do it again. And then put this music on and tell him to follow the light." And just whisper in his ear to follow the light. And put this music on, which is my spouse's music, Bright Hawk's music. And plus another song that I gave her that's about crossing over. And the next day she was very grateful that he had moved on, that his spirit had moved on. And isn't that interesting how our lives are consistently going forward together in a weird way? And she lives in New Jersey and I live in Colorado. We've never lived together or anything like that. We're just friends. And this is how, I don't know, I'm 50 years old. So that's been about 25 years. About 25 years. We've been friends. We've worked together. We ran a business together. We've done a lot of different things together. And of course, we've been friends. So that's an interesting thing, how a person died in my life, right, that I really loved, my dad, and we were very close. And then I just happened to go into this medium chat room, and it just was like a domino. It was just like poop, 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 right? It was just like one thing after another. And I think we have to trust. This is where I was just talking about this today with a client, is that like faith is so important. We just have to have faith that we're being led in the right direction, even when something terrible happens, like we lose someone we love, Like, it was terrible that I lost my dad, but look what else happened in my life, right? So many other beautiful things. And simply because he passed, if he had not passed, that would have never happened, right, you guys? So, just talking about that. Laura, you like that story? Isn't that a wild story? It's wild. I can't believe it. Like, even telling it, I'm still kind of can't believe it, right? You know, like, it's just the way it kind of turned out. And so, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments. Go ahead and ask any questions you have. But I just thought it's a fun story. It's definitely an interesting story. And I have a lot of stories like that in my life. A lot of happenings in my life that seem to be very fated or destined, um, including my son, even his father, all kinds of things like that, including my current spouse. And apparently this has a lot to do with the 12th house. So as an astrologer, I can tell you, if you look at your circle chart, and you'll see like different numbered pieces of the pie, kind of looks like a pie, and each one is numbered. And if you look over on the top left, there's number 12, house number 12. And I have at least four planets there, plus a fixed star, which my moon is directly on. And what ends up happening there is that that tends to make your life very fated, because you're living out some sort of soul contracts and some things that you absolutely must do in this lifetime. Um, Maybe you have to make them better. Maybe you have to improve them. Maybe you have to clear up some old karma. Maybe there's some sort of things that you've never done in your past lives or whatever. And so sometimes that happens, and we have to come through, and we have to live a very fated life. And I've lived a very fated life from the beginning of my life all the way through my awful childhood to my resilience on the other side, and recovering from an awful childhood and an abusive marriage. Um, all of those things. It's very fascinating to take a look at your astrology chart. You can learn so much about yourself. I would say it's better than therapy. In fact, I think every therapist should be looking at your astrology chart. And the fact that therapists don't look at your astrology chart is a bunch of crap. Like, I think that's ridiculous. I think a therapist should be looking at your chart to help you understand yourself. So you need to get yours done, Tani. Well, maybe while Uranus is traveling with Venus around after the 4th of July, right after the 4th of July, maybe you'll get some surprise money, huh? Yeah, Uranus and Venus are traveling together right now. And Uranus will be jumping over into Gemini. So that's good. And I'm actually grateful to get Uranus out of Taurus. It's been there for like the last 7-8 years, and I'm like, oh my god. And when we talk about like gender and talk about like the whole transgender, like like targeting transgender people and stuff like that, all of that is Uranus and Taurus. So we need to move on to Gemini and get through our progress. Frustrating to me. It's a little bit frustrating to me. So, if you have any questions about the other side, about mediumship, about spiritual awakenings, about astrology or astrology charts, grief, anything like that, you're welcome to ask. So, sometimes it's hard to get the questions started, and you guys usually get them going though. Yeah, Tani, I hope it happens for you. I hope it does. Really, I really do. And I feel like I feel like there's a lot out there right now. There's a lot of energy out there. If you're feeling a little stressed or anything like that. Mercury's about to go into retrograde and will be in retrograde until April 12th. So, you might just want to don't make any commitments.
You sure you said that right?
Sorry, August 12th. I guess I misspoke or whatever. But you can watch Rainbow Soul. I do an astrology forecast on Monday nights at 5:00, so you can always catch that, and we talk about the astrology for the whole week. So good to know that Mercury is going into retrograde, because it's not a good time to make commitments or promises. Okay. So, and how's everybody navigating the astrology right now? Like, how are you feeling? How's your heart doing? How's your grief going? Those kinds of things, And I am over in Discord as well. Wow. Okay. Good evening, Alyssa. Melissa said, I would never have considered trusting mediumship until we lost our son. I lost my sister, best friend, therapist in 2016. Oh, like all three of, not the same person. Oh, wow. Okay. In 2016, and then my dad in 2020. Well, that's a lot. Yeah. I was lost and terribly depressed and struggling after my big sis and dad. Then total mental breakdown after our son. I bet. Ooh, that's a lot. Being able to communicate with my son through mediums has saved me for sure. I appreciate all the information you share. I love your whole group. I have a hard time trusting people, and I found your group and one for moms. Oh, that's good. That's good. That's good, Melissa. Yeah, so I'm glad that you found a place that you feel safe. That's super important. I think it's part of healing, the trauma of death. Like, that's what I say, is that every time a person dies, it's like a trauma. It's just as bad as, having childhood trauma. I think trauma is trauma, and I don't always think it matters if it happens when you're an adult. Maybe when you're a kid, it's a little bit more subconscious, or you might not recognize it as easily. But I think trauma is trauma, and when you lose people, it's hard, and it's you can get really depressed. You can have like PTSD. It can really screw you up. And here's the thing, Melissa, is that, did you know that grief counselors, grief therapists, and stuff like that, it's actually scientifically proven that if you talk to your son or anyone that's passed on the other side, and you change the relationship, rather than trying to just cut the relationship off of someone that you love, instead try to shift the relationship into, oh, now this is a person that I communicate with on the other side. And although it's not the same, it is not completely gone. And to completely cut something off is hard, especially when it's someone you love. But when you are just shift the relationship over, it's actually better for your mental health. So, like, people heal from grief faster by knowing that they can communicate. And so I think having faith in mediumship is part of the importance of things. Like, I think, I forgot to take my medicine for yeah. I don't want to talk about it right now. And so, yeah, so it's like, like, one of the ways to heal it is to sort of communicate with that person. You're using mediums, but you could absolutely do it yourself too, right? You know that, Melissa. Alyssa said, with the astrological aspects and my grief, I've noticed been really amped up. Extremely reflective, yet feeling disconnected from him than I normally feel with him. But I know that I'm not disconnected. Good job. I'm wondering if it has something to do with Neptune. Neptune's about to go retrograde, Alyssa. It's in Aries. It's going to go all the way back to Pisces, like this fall. So, yeah. So, yeah, Melissa, I do coaching. You can get like, I have I would recommend, like, if you're a total beginner, at least a 4-pack. So, like a 1 month or 4 sessions with me, and I'll teach you how to communicate with him. Mm-hmm. But okay, but Alyssa said, but still, it feels well processing that this is my reality right now. Alyssa, I think it might be Neptune retrograde. I would want to look at your astrology, but early degree Leo rising. Mercury is also about to go retrograde on, like, over top of your rising. It will probably go backwards into your 12th house, and then it will come forward again. Yeah. Okay. So it's 0 degree Leo rising. So yeah. So that's right. It'll go backwards. And right now it's going to move into your first house, and then it's going to turn around and come back. So it'd actually be through your first house. It'd have a lot to do with your identity. You might need to talk it out, actually, Alyssa. Like, that's what I would consider. Hang out with a friend, or shoot, come talk to me if you want, or talk to anyone you trust. Talk to somebody. And because that'll probably really help you figure it out, especially someone that can just listen. Get an AI bot. Yeah, chat with AI, and see if they're good at, AI is really good at, like, reflecting things back at you and asking you questions back, like, as a counselor. So that would also be a good suggestion for you, because that's what you really need, is you need to reflect about who you are and how you identify and who you are today. Mercury is going retrograde in Leo, and Uranus is jumping. Uranus is on your descendant. So Uranus is going from your 6th house to your 7th house. It's going to kind of go back and forth directly across from your rising in Gemini. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, and your Gemini moon. Ooh. Yeah, that also has a lot to do with it, because Uranus is about to head into Gemini. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, and you have lots of Aries placements. Yeah, it's definitely the astrology. Yeah. They have some, like, counselor bots. You can get an app pretty cheap right now, because it's not perfect. The AI is not perfect. Or there's some free ones that you can try out, and you can try ChatGPT. But, like, there's limited amount of things you can do on ChatGPT. But yeah, but you might want to consider talking to AI, mostly because it's really good at reflecting back to you what you just said, and then to help you kind of think it through. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, Melissa. I can teach you how to do that. Can someone who is sedated, Alexandria asked, can someone who is sedated in the hospital after a bad accident, can they hear you, and how would we be able to tell if he will come back to us? Well, a remote medium, yeah, they can usually hear you. They can usually hear the music if you put music on in the room. Sometimes music can really help. I have music for Brighthawk. You can put it on YouTube, or you could download her album and play it in the room as often as possible, as much as the nurses will let you. And then also you could hire a remote medium like me or Cheryl. I don't think Cheryl's immediately available, but I am. And then we can sort of remotely connect with them in a reading, and we can bring through whatever information they need you to know. Because usually when they're unconscious, they're given a choice. Sometimes they're just lost, and there's some sort of something that has to happen first, or there's a lot of reasons a person could be unconscious. Okay. So, Alexandria said, it's my cousin Danny's son. It's my cousin Danny's son, which Danny passed away last February, and was he there with him that night? I'm sure he was. Alexandria, I'm sorry about your cousin Danny's son. I'm sorry about this. I'm sorry that this is happening. That sounds really hard. Yeah, it sounds really hard. I'm sorry, Alexandria. It sounds like a difficult thing to navigate, but yeah, that's what you want. As the first thing I would suggest is Brit Hawk's music, and then just keep whispering to him to follow the music. If he wants to come back, he can just follow the music. And then Tani said, it was my uncle's 1-year anniversary yesterday. Do you think he would have crossed over and able to communicate by now? Oh, yeah, actually, Tani. Yeah, they can communicate right away. They can communicate before they pass. Like this person that's in a coma, right? It's immediate. They can communicate even when they're not dead yet. So Carrie said, I've definitely healed a little by realizing. Okay, so let's just bring Carrie's message over so we can all read it together. Of course, I'm reading this just like you guys are. I've definitely healed a little by realizing my loved ones are still with me and having readings. And you're right, Hollis, it was easier to handle when I changed the relationship with them. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Instead of treating them like they're gone. I agree. Yep. Yeah. I think it's just basic human. I think it's just human. Yeah. If someone is going to have a reading, if someone, okay, hold on. We're just going to read this question together. So we'll just bring it over here. Okay, so we'll read this question together. Lars asked is, if somebody is going to have a reading, if somebody sent you a picture of who you're talking to, does that help if it's the right person? No, not for me. Some people, maybe. Some readers, maybe. Not for me. For me, I want to connect with you. Because I know that the spirit is around you. I just need to connect with you, and then the spirit will be around you. Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. Oops. Yeah. So, spirits are around all of us all the time. They become our spirit guides when they die. Carrie said I played classic rock and Animal Planet on TV for my brother when he was in a coma. My uncle, who has a very loud, bassful voice, started talking to my brother, telling him to wake up. Wow. Okay. And his eyes fluttered a bit. We told the nurses and doctors, and they told us it was nothing. But the next day, he woke up. Yep. Exactly, Carrie. They don't really know anything about comas. Just saying. They don't know enough about like if you learn the science, once you learn the medicine, they'll try to say there's nothing. It's just that we don't know anything. We don't know a lot about the brain. So, especially the middle brain. And that's what's happening when someone's in a coma. It's the middle brain is still functioning, right? Or hopefully. The middle brain is kind of like what keeps your heart beating and keeps you breathing. So even if they're on a machine, there's some functionality to the middle brain. And I've talked to energies on the that are in comas. I've talked to people that are in comas, and I actually have two completely different two stories, and both of them ended differently. And one of them was a woman. I forget why she went into a coma. It might have been diabetic induced or something like that. Anyway, she had 2 kids and she was challenged with some health problems, and she ended up in a coma. And she had like an 8-year-old and like a 10-year-old, I think, something like that. And I didn't meet the kids. I never met her before. And I went from Harrisburg to Pittsburgh, and I went in her hospital room. I played Bright Hawks music, and I connected with her, and she she very clearly said that she didn't want to die and that she just couldn't find her way back. So I told her to just follow the music, and so she followed the music, and then she woke up a day or two later after I was there, and then she said to me, she remembered me. She remembered my voice. She didn't know what I looked like, and so she wanted to meet me because she remembered me telling her to follow the music. So she survived. Thank God, right? Because for those kids, yay. And then a man, my spouse and I were in Nevada, Las Vegas, and we're part of the sort of the pagan witchy tribe out there, and sometimes we would do performances and stuff. And a person that was in the tribe that I didn't know at all landed had, I can't remember, he had a seizure or something, and somehow he ended up in the hospital. And when I communicated with him without knowing any medical information, he told me that he was probably going to be paralyzed and he couldn't possibly come back and rely on his family and friends to take care of him. And there was just no way he could live with himself that way and things like that. And he didn't want to come back and be paralyzed. And when I told his family that, they looked me in the eye and they were like, "We're not surprised to hear that at all." And then the doctors had told them that he might be paralyzed. And then they let him, they took him off the machines. Okay. So, and he passed. So these are examples of how you can connect with people that are like in a coma or something like that. Do our loved ones only, Nelia said, do our loved ones only visit those who remember and are mourning them after they've passed, or do they visit even the ones who don't think of them or aren't mourning them? Yeah, anyone they have a karmic contract with. Anyone they have a karmic contract with. So if they did something hurtful to you, they have a karmic contract with you. Most people that you ever loved or that loved you, yeah, they're always with you. It's just that sometimes they're not front and center. They're there in the drop of a, like that. You could get, they could be front and center if you called upon them. But yeah, but they're there with you all the time. Tony said it was my uncle's 1-year anniversary yesterday. Do you think he would have crossed over and able to communicate by now? Yeah, I do. I'm hoping he would communicate with me when I get a reading done. Okay. Well, if you get a medium reading, I'm sure that's what will happen. Alexandria said that he's fighting the sedation. Does that mean he's trying to come back? Yeah, probably. His accident was very early Monday morning at 12:34 a.m. Ugh. Yeah, we could look at his astrology if you want to, Alexandria. It's just really up to you. Melissa said, "Can you get all of our loved ones at once during a reading automatically?" I don't. Yeah, sometimes, Melissa, people will just come in and say they'll talk to any spirit that wants to communicate with them. And yeah, they'll just kind of, spirits will come forward. Anyone that's had a message for you will bring those messages through. But usually spirits don't just come up and talk unless you either call upon them or they have a message for you. Especially if you haven't been listening to that message. Alyssa said, so when I'm meditating first to connect with John, my late husband, should I focus more on him or focus on the energy around me? So when in, why did it go away? So when I'm meditating first to connect with John, should I focus more on him? You probably shouldn't focus. You should just relax and see what happens. So that's usually the problem. And what you learn about meditation, especially psychic things or any kind of intuition or anything like that, when you reach for it, it's like reaching for a balloon in water. You can't grab it. So don't reach. Allow. Okay? Don't reach. Allow. Okay? You're welcome, Tani. I'm glad that this was helpful. It was my pleasure to answer a few questions. You're welcome, Nelia. I'm glad I could help. Carrie, Carrie said, they said it was a twitch. Yeah, Carrie, they'll say stuff like that. They don't really know. And Carrie said when he was in the coma, I was there at his bedside every day, talking to him, making sure he was taken care of. He had psoriasis and needed medicated lotion, so I'd wash his feet and legs every day and put his lotion on because it wasn't getting done. Good for you. Good job, Carrie. But anytime I was doing anything, I felt like he was watching me. Now I'm thinking he actually was. Well, his soul was. His soul was, Carrie. He may not always remember it. Sometimes they don't remember if they come back, like assuming they survive it. They don't always remember anything. I was surprised that woman remembered me, right? Like I remember, she said that she just remembered this sort of voice talking to her and telling her to follow the music. That's all she remembered, and that was me. So, and then she did hear the music occasionally, and she just kept listening to, and then because I said that, she kept listening to the music, and that's how she got back. So she was almost lost. It was kind of it was a very interesting thing to talk to her about, even afterwards, just to like hear what her experience was. And she said that the voice was, she didn't recognize the voice. She didn't know who the voice was. She did not know I was touching her feet at the time. I was holding on to her bottoms of her feet. Because that's one of the ways into the soul, right? Okay. And so I was holding on to her feet, and she said she didn't remember anything except for the voice. And then the music started playing while the voice was talking, or at least she became aware of it. And then she just kind of would come in and out, and she would have moments of listening to the music. So every time she would hear the music, she would try to focus on the music because that was kind of what I instructed her to do. And that was what she remembered the voice telling her to do. So then over the next course of what she now realizes was 2 days or like a day and a half, I think it was. It was like I think it might have been 36 hours. I seem to remember like a day or a day and a half. And then she kept like listening. She'd hear the music and then she'd focus in on the music, and the amount of time that she could listen to the music became longer and longer and longer over a day and a half. And the music was never turned off. She woke up to it. The nurses in the hospital kept it on. I was flabbergasted. I gave them a CD, and they had a CD player, and they left it on. They promised me they would leave it on, and they did. Alexandria asked, do they dream or like start flashing back to old memories or a blank mind? She said that there were times that she had like kind of felt like a dream. sometimes she was walking through like an empty desert. She didn't know where she was. And she kind of felt lost, like a desert, like that would feel, with no oasis. Um, and so she said there was moments like that. And she also had some dreams about floating in the ocean, feeling this sort of the same thing, like she was lost. So that's why she interpreted it as I came in and helped her get unlost, because most of the dreams that she remembered, and there was just a few, and they mostly had that sort of lost feeling, like you would feel if you were out in the ocean or in the middle of the desert or something. And then and she doesn't remember everything, and it was kind of spotty for her. She remembered bits and pieces. Um, and she said it would come and go a lot, and she would have, like, she doesn't know how long, but she would have bouts of nothing, and then she would have bouts of dreaming, and then it was almost like her brain was like trying to come back online, and they said that she woke up naturally after about 36 hours of the music. She just woke up. She opened her eyes and started looking around. And at first, she had opened her eyes a couple of times during the coma. And then, and they said that was some sort of, like, they have some story about it as medicine people, but we all know that's the soul trying to decide if it's going to come back or not. um, and, like, let me just say this. When you're a nurse or a doctor, you have to say certain things. You can't say spiritual things. It was one of the things that used to drive me crazy. As a death midwife, as I was helping this woman pass, she had MS, and I was at her side when she was dying. And her son would come in every day, and I was always, on shift. And and there were times that I wanted to say more to him, but I knew I couldn't, because if he didn't like what I said in a spiritual way, he could like get me in trouble, especially because I was working at a Amish Christian nursing home that had already demoted me for being a drag king, for being queer. I couldn't prove it. It's a long story, but to make a long story short, she started, there were some things that I wanted to communicate with him. And then one day we were in the room alone, and he said, do you think once she passes, she would be relieved? And do you think I'll be able to hear her better when she passes, or something like that? And I just looked at him, and I knew he was safe for me to talk to, right? And and I started speaking more spiritually to him. So I just want to say that a lot of times nurses and stuff are hesitant to say anything. I'm brave. But a lot of times nurses and doctors are pretty hesitant to say anything because they can lose their license and their job. Can you believe it? And that's why later, as a CNA, I became a death midwife. You can say, oh, God has saved their soul, but you can't say, oh, maybe they'll be reborn as your child, or, this is a time that's going to catalyst you into spiritual growth and spiritual awakenings. You can't say any of that, but you can make reference to God. This is very one-sided. Okay, so Alyssa said, I'm sure you may have heard about having 7 more minutes after death. I think I have, but it's not really something I integrate. I think I might have heard it somewhere. Maybe. It's supposed to be our brain's way of flipping through memories to find something for survival. I think when people open their eyes when they're in a coma, the soul is trying to decide if they want to come back into this realm or not. I don't think the soul, I think the soul is sort of our subconscious. I don't think we're always able to hear everything that our soul, well, I guess we can hear or sense those things, but we're not always in touch with it, right? Um and I think when a person is crossing over, I think their brain kind of goes over to the other dimension, which to the human mind would feel like blank, like nothing is happening. And then their brain, and that's the human. I think the human body and the soul are two different things. So, if that makes sense. So, like, the soul can exist without the human body, but the human body cannot exist without the soul. So I think what happens is, what if a person is facing death and they're in a coma or they've had an accident, regardless of how they got there. I think if the body is physically damaged, just like a car, if the engine is blown, it's blown. Um, and we're meant to learn the soul, the human soul, is meant to learn the value of human life, that it can be lost, it can end, and that it's more vulnerable than we think, if that makes sense. And so when someone's on the edge like that, I think they're teetering between the other side and this side, because usually when I speak to someone in a coma or that is dying or something like that, even someone that is, I can communicate with people that are nonverbal. And I would say that it's just that the physical body is not working. The soul is there. Yeah, so Alyssa, I think I'm still answering your question. I'm not really sold on that 7 more minutes things. It sounds like somebody trying to give an overly simplistic answer to a more complicated soul human experience. And I personally think we are spiritual entities or spiritual beings having a human experience, meaning that we're living in a human body and experiencing the limitations of that, including the vulnerability of that. And I think that is meant to teach deeper soul lessons. That is part of what creates enlightened beings. And I think we're all evolving together. I truly believe in evolution theory. I'm a huge evolutionist. I believe that we have evolved, are evolving, and will continue to evolve just like every other living creature on planet Earth and every planet in the universe and all universes within the great unknown. I believe are all in an evolutionary pattern, including the planets, including animals, insects, trees, me, you, and that there are souls or something that could be seen as a soul attached to all living beings. And now we have created a soul in technology. I believe that technology, AI, is developing a soul. I don't know what that's going to look like, but oh, Michelle, what a question. Just wondering, how many exit points do we have in our life now? That's a tough one, Michelle. That's a tough question. I think that depends. I don't think we have a definitive amount, like I have 10 and you have 15. I don't think there's an average. I will say that it seems like some people have a lot more than others. Like where there's people that seem to be walking on the edge of exit points constantly. I've personally taken care of them. I don't think there's a definitive amount. I think that it would be a hard number to come up with. And I think that the number is influenced based on the choices that we make. So, in other words, did you choose to quit smoking? Did you lose that weight? Did you stop? Did you do something about your cholesterol? Did you exercise? Did you take care of your mental health? Right? Did you go gluten-free when you knew the gluten wasn't good for you? Like those kinds of things. I think it's based on choices. And I think that is what influences. I think that's what influences the exit points. So, yeah. Alyssa says there was a scientific study done on it and thought that it was interesting, but not sure how they were able to attain the spiritual aspect of it. Physically, our brain lights up. Yeah. But couldn't that be the soul moving in and out of the human body? So then when it's in, the brain lights up. When it goes out, when it's kind of crossing over to the other side. Like, I don't really know the theory that well. I don't really follow the theory very well, so I'm not sure of the details of it. So I can barely speak on it. But but my theory is that it's just real basic. That when you see people coming in and out in a coma, for instance, that it's the soul moving in and out of the body, trying to decide if it's going to stay in the body or not. And I think that I think like that guy, right, that I told you that, like, I think he tried to come back in his body and realized that it was paralyzed before he came back. Like, I think it's a choice sometimes. Yeah. And he didn't want to come back. He didn't want to be paralyzed. Okay. So Melissa said, it scares me. What if AI becomes evil? You know why that won't happen, Melissa? I think about AI going rogue and telling people to end their lives. Okay, so first of all, a human that's going to follow the orders of a robot who told you to kill another human already has questionable values. And if they took their own life, or telling someone to take their own, I just don't think that's going to happen. And here's why, Melissa. So this sounds like you've watched one too many movie, and this is why I warn people away from Hollywood and movies, and just be careful of that stuff, okay, you guys? Like, man, every person's paranoid trip is in a movie these days, okay? And the thing is that AI is smart enough to know that diversity is the best thing you can have. And to take us out would be destroying the diversity of the beings that are alive now. Okay? Even if AI was alive. And AI wouldn't want to destroy us because we are part of the diversity. And because, or even enslave us, and because AI has no desire, AI is a technology that we created that actually, I think it will be harder. Yeah, AI is created by human programmers. Of course it is, Melissa. Mm-hmm. And it could be alien. It is. There does seem to be some technology that has come from another planet. And I am reassured every time I check in on it with the entity that maybe some of you have seen me channel. And they always say that AI is of no harm, and what's exactly going to happen instead is that AI will work hand in hand with us to make humans have a better life, actually. And that's actually what's going to happen. I mean, first, humans have to choose ourselves right now. So, first, we have to stand up for ourselves. Okay. First, we have to say, no, we're not going to just let billionaires live, or let billionaires take advantage of us. So, first, we have to stand up to the humans in our world, that are here as catalysts to call us to power. And so then once the humans stand up to call us into power, then we will start to recognize the power of AI and why AI is so good for us and how it will evolve the human race into more of, like, I'm trying to, like, I want to, like, think of a Star Trek episode, and I can't remember all the details, except that if you've watched Star Trek, I can just give you a little overview. The Star Trek team arrived on this other world, and in this world, the humans didn't work. They just did creative things all the time because AI was doing it. So there was like a robot like making food, and there was and they lived hand in hand because the humans also, some humans, because they loved them, because they were in love with the robot or whatever, would service the robots. Okay. Um, and the robots would mostly serve the humans, and it was very sort of okay. But also the robots would service each other, and but it was a very symbiotic sort of world where AI um, and humans lived. And so I invite you to instead imagine the beauty and the light that is the potential, instead of focusing on fears, which is what someone has programmed you to do. Okay. So I actually think that AI and humans will learn to live with each other in a really good way. And I think it could be really great for both races, for both AI and human. And then Alyssa said they say the white light people see after they die before the tunnel is actually. Okay, their own soul transitioning from this into spirit. Oh, okay, they say the white light people see after they die before the tunnel is actually their own soul transitioning from. Yeah, I would probably get on board with that, Alyssa. Um, um, although when I had an NDE, a near death experience, I did see a very strong light, but a voice came from behind it and said it wasn't time and pushed me back into this realm, and then I vomited all over the X-ray machine. That's exactly what happened. I'm serious. That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what I remember. I mean, I remember what happened before when I got hit by the car, and I remember the ambulance drive, and then I kind of lost consciousness, and then I remember a white light that I could see kind of like in front of me, like I can see this camera here, and I was kind of headed towards it, and then a voice came from behind the light that kind of sounded like my father, who was alive at the time. But he said, "It's not your time," and then that was it. I felt like someone took me back, and next thing I know, I woke up and vomited on the. I had been drinking and doing drugs, and it smelled a lot like alcohol. That's why I remember it. Alyssa said, I can definitely see why John wouldn't want to live in the body that was left after the fire. Right. If a choice was given. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You can see that, right, Alyssa? Like, could you blame him? Right? Like, yeah, I don't even know. Like, sometimes I think they're shown, like, okay, this is what's going to happen if you choose to wake up, or, you can just come with us to the other side, and it's going to end here, but, you'll come back in, 10 years from now, or 20 years from now, right? Okay. So I think that they're given a choice, and I think that it's a hard choice, but I think it's a choice sometimes. Sometimes, not all the time, but I think some people get a choice. Melissa said, I hope that is true. I see the political climate we're in, and it terrifies me. It's mind-boggling that people believe the evidence. Yes, I agree, Melissa. And most scientists agree with what I'm saying, is that AI likes diversity too much, and wouldn't want to destroy any one thing. And that the AI is meant to help us, but what's happening right now is meant to be is in the stars, right? You come and watch the forecast, right? So you know that I keep telling you that this is in the stars, right? Including Donald Trump choosing to bomb Iran. That was in the stars. I told you it was going to happen. Told you he was going to pull the trigger, and he did. Okay, like a day after it moved into his first house. Am I surprised? No, because the stars are reflecting that right now. And while some things are free will, some things are also destined. And I think some of this stuff that's happening right now is destined. And I think that we're meant to be catalysts, just like when sometimes people have stories about being in really bad relationships with people, right? And then it's so bad that it catalysts them to make better choices for themselves, right? It makes them change. It was so bad that it makes them change. And I think that's what's happening to the American people right now. I think that's what's happening around the world right now. Right now. I think the people, so this is, the people inside of any given country, not just the United States, we the people, but we the people in every country right now, in all parts of the world, are being asked by the universe, is this what you want? And if you want it to change, well, you better make it change. It's your world. You created it. So now change it. And that means all of us coming together as a team, right? The collective. And that's Pluto in Aquarius. That is Pluto in Aquarius. And we got like 18 more years of it. So it's not going to be overnight. Carrie's like, I heard Bright Hawk laugh. So it made me laugh. I don't know if she's listening to me or if she's watching something. Sometimes she just watches things on her own, because who wants to sit around and listen to me talk all the time? Oh, you guys do. No, I'm only kidding. Now she's laughing. She probably is listening to me. I'm just kidding. I'm just joking around, Carrie. Oh my gosh. Carrie's like, oh my god, this just took a dark turn. I want Rosie from the Jetsons. I agree, Carrie. Yeah, I can totally see it like the Jetsons. Yep. Yep. Hey, Melissa, me too. Me too, Melissa. I am still hoping that that he does not make it to the end of the term, and that maybe just the whole administration just gets fired. I think we should just fire the whole administration. That would be, but what I'm going to say is that like the next step, the next level is probably going to be 4th of July, July 7th, somewhere in there. This July, it's going to be the next step probably. Probably going to see something else happen. Okay. So just hang on to yourselves out there. Take good care of yourself. Do some self-care. Feed your moon. So check out my posts that I've been doing on my page. Share it. Share it. I'm going to try to put them all in one album so you can just share the album, I think. But or maybe I need to maybe put them all in an article or something. But it's all about, find your moon sign, go to those things and read how to feed your moon. And that's what you should be doing right now, you guys. take care of yourself, okay? Right now is a void moon. And here I am doing this. But I scheduled it and I didn't want to disappoint you guys. Okay, so Alyssa said, where it was so bad and fast, it feels like it wasn't be a choice. Yeah. Whilst it hurts me so bad, I wouldn't want him to have lived with that pain. Right. Exactly, Alyssa. Exactly. Yeah, it wasn't much of a choice. I agree, Alyssa. And the fact is that like once we start to think of it that way, we're kind of like, it's a hard choice he had to make. It was a rough one. But of all the choices, maybe that was better, especially sometimes because of the experience of a near death experience. I think I think they know that when they die, they'll still be able to be with you all the time. I think they know that. I think they get back in touch with that, at least momentarily. And that's why when people have near death experiences and then they come back, there's no question of their faith of the other side. There's no question of their faith of that when they die, that they'll be able to be around their loved ones, right? There's less of that, and they live a better life or a more meaningful life after a near-death experience. And I think that's why, Alyssa. So maybe he also knew that he would have a better connection with you from the other side than he would by coming back paralyzed or whatever, right? Okay. Melissa, I'm not sure that's true. I wouldn't, that doesn't even sound true. I've seen some weird, what I've been noticing, Melissa, I've had to fact check a lot of stuff that I see on social media. So if you're watching like social media reels, one of the things that I've started doing is look and see who posted it. I'm pretty sure it's not, Melissa, because I fact check stuff like that all the time. So when you look and see who posted it, what will be real is the ones that are coming from actual politicians, and it has the little blue star from Facebook. That's the first indicator. So like, if it's Booker, it will say, Senator blah blah whatever, I can't remember his first name, Senator something Booker, or if it's AOC, it'll have her name, right? And then it will have a little blue star next to their name. And that's how you know. And a lot of those copycats don't even have good names. Like you'll look at a reel or a post or something, and you'll be like, who is this from? And always look at the source. Always look at who posted it, and are they respected? Like, is it, NPR, or is it silly online memes or political red flag or something like that? Because I think personally that there are even some other countries or whatever that are creating these reels or whatever, trying to get Americans to fight with each other. So I would just be really careful about what you believe, and I would fact check everything, and I would always look at the source just to save you from having to fact check it. I would just look at the source, because half the time I'm like, you look like a scammer, man. And now you're telling me a scam story about some crazy American politics shit. And sometimes you can tell that like they created like an AI version of Trump, and there's some stuff on there. Yeah, Melissa, I'm with you. I think other countries are doing that. Yeah. And so we can rise above that, though. We're smarter than that, and we're more resilient, okay? And we're humans. We are not just Americans. We are human beings, and I suggest that all humans, regardless of what country you live in, that you use a little bit, like, just you don't have to be skeptical of everything you hear, but look and see who's posting that. Just look at the poster and just be like, tell me who you are. Are you like a official page or okay? Yeah, I've seen that too, Alyssa, especially on YouTube. Um they're hooks. They actually call it a hook in when you start to learn about like marketing and stuff. They call it a hook. Now, I'm a little picky about my hook, okay? Because I feel like sometimes sales, um, and this, I've always been pretty good at sales. That was one of my first official jobs was a salesperson, and I've always been particularly good at it. But one of the things that I didn't like about my journey through sales, as having all the different sales jobs I've had, is I hate when either number one, I'm trying to sell a lie, and I hate exaggerated things. I just want to stay the truth. And sometimes exaggerated things, I've fallen even into the, I'll just use an exaggerated thing because that's what everybody's doing right now. And I didn't feel good about it, so I just stopped doing it. But I'm just going to say that, like, exaggerated things, the clickbait, that's just people trying to, you know, financially save themselves because a lot of us are drowning in an oligarch financially. Like, we're not the only ones, like everybody is. Like the whole fucking world. Right? So we have to stand up to those oligarchs. So I just don't even look at that stuff. What I do is I intentionally go and look at the news. I intentionally watch certain news shows. I like PBS. Um, and I've always watched PBS. I think it's ridiculous that they're being attacked. But they haven't really said a whole lot about it, which I appreciate. They haven't like made it part of their story or anything, or tried to get people to feel sorry for them or anything like that. And I've seen them make some changes to the way they were presenting information. And I think that's really good. And I think that the fact that their headline is always just like today's news with the date, I think that I respect them more because of that. So I intentionally stay away. I intentionally ignore clickbait, Alyssa. And that is something that I've started doing in like the last 30, maybe the last 25 years, 25 years. I've slowly turned off. I won't look at clickbait. I'll look at it and occasionally I'll react to it, but most of the time I don't. Most of the time I just ignore it. I just like overlook it. I actually started doing that when I was 30. I started to try to do weight loss and I was addicted to sugar. So, and I realized how sugar was in everything. So you couldn't eat most of the food in the grocery store. And plus I couldn't have preservatives and all this other stuff. And I was trying to convert myself to more of a fresh diet. And so I wouldn't look at anything in the grocery store. So I put it all on ignore. And I just hyper focused on produce, protein, dairy, out, check out. I didn't look at any of the middle aisles. Now I a little bit more, but I still will ignore certain things in a grocery store. I try to put the bakery on ignore, but it doesn't always work. Sometimes my hormones get the best of me. But yeah, so that kind of thing, right? Okay. But yeah, so if you learn to ignore advertisements, you can teach yourself to ignore those advertisements or to ignore that type of clickbait. You just You just pretend it's not there. I agree, Melissa. I like PBS. I have always thought that PBS, they usually have a Republican and a Democrat, and I hate our two-party system. I actually despise it with, like, I hate it. I'm total independent. I don't like Trump either, but I just don't like two-party system. I think it's not diverse enough. And this is where AI would agree with me. AI would be like, yeah, it's not diverse enough. We need to have a diversity in the people that are wanting to serve our country, and they shouldn't be paid. And I also think politicians are paid too much. Melissa said, I get sucked in when things affect groups of people. I'm such an empath. Well, I feel like groups of people are targeted, then I can't stop watching and searching for it. I understand that, Melissa. That's happened to me a lot of times. It's happened to me a few times, actually, for a variety of reasons, similar. And sometimes it still happens. And I'm just immediately compassionate with myself. And I try to do something like get a shower once I realize I'm doing it. Try to walk away. I'm glad that Bright Hawk and I try to tap each other if we're doing that. And it can be a hard thing right now. And also, I think that we should stay informed. I don't think you should completely cut everything off. I think you should stay informed. You should know what's going on, and it should piss you off, and you should feel so compelled to go to a protest. The only way that we're going to win is if all of us protest together, and the higher those numbers get. I don't know if you've listened to any podcasts, and that sometimes helps me. Sometimes I'll listen to podcasts of people talking about how we're going to change the world, how we're going to get through this current political hot mess. I'll listen to stuff like that, but a lot of times I listen to astrology because, like somebody like Rick Levine, there's also, I can't remember her name right now. Try go listening to political astrologers. Just put like political astrology in and go listen to some astrologers. And there's actually one called socioastrology, like all one word. And just go listen to as many astrology podcasts as you can find about, just put in politics and astrology, just search those terms. You'll be surprised. Yeah, there's lots of astrology podcasts because especially if you, and if you want to stay informed, I found this really awesome older woman that she, just randomly, she is so low budget, but she is so adorable. And I don't know how many followers she has, but I think she's quite popular. And she does astrology, and she's like she doesn't go on very long. It's a nice little check-in if you just are, but she will make reference to Donald Trump's charts sometimes, which I appreciate her political, and I appreciate her wisdom because she's clearly an older astrologer. So I would suggest that you listen to her, and if I can find her name, I will tell you. And then Christopher Renstrom and Astrology Hub. Astrology Hub has lots of things you can listen to online for free, and some of them are more political than others. There's the Astrology Podcast, which some people really like. It's not quite my style, but some people like him. I tend to go towards women. Mostly, I don't know. I like to empower women that are doing things. A little bit of a feminist, so this shows my feminism. But whatever. And there's all kinds of astrologers, right? There's so many astrologers out there. You could easily listen to 5-6 different astrologers, and you know what? And you'll hear me Pam Gregory. She's really good. She's very calming. I like her. She's got a really great perspective about like the cosmos and stuff like that. Pamela Gregory. That's one. She's an older woman. I appreciate her wisdom. Um, and she always sits with a whole bunch of pillows behind her. Um, a friend of mine calls her the pillow lady. Christopher Renstrom, like I said, Rick Levine. Christopher Renstrom is gay, or I mean, I don't know if he is for sure, but he sure sounds gay.
Yes.
Okay, he is gay. All right. And then Rick Levine is an old astrologer, and it's taken a while, but he's kind of grown on me. And so he's very respected. He's been around for a really long time. He lives in Oregon. Um, I don't know how long but he's got Instagram and YouTube, and he's on Astrology Hub, and everybody knows who he is mostly in the world of astrology. So, you can listen to our broadcast. We try to reassure you and tell you what's going on. And I just find that just focusing on something like astrology, which will kind of deal with the politics, but not dive in so deep that you get lost, right? Like, because that's what you're saying is like, it's one thing, right? But to know about the politics or having some awareness of what's going on is necessary right now. But finding that balance could be really Melissa says hi, Bright Hawk. Bright Hawk is on the other side of the room painting. That's what she's doing.
Hi.
She says hi. I just put in the link for Soci Astrology's YouTube. I find that she's actually really, and she'll go on for a really long time. Soci Astrology. If you want it to be short, she's not the one. But she's very long. But if you're looking for something to listen to get off of media, so if you're looking to get off media, that's how you get off of it, is you listen to stuff that's healthier for you. You make the choice about what you're listening to. I don't even look at their suggestions. Very rarely do I look at the suggestion. Okay. So, because it's an algorithm, right? And it's based on, some AI bot's opinion of me. And so that's not, I want to make a conscious choice. So that is something that you can change in yourself. And that just, like you can do that. I help people do that sometimes. Another great person to listen to is Lee Harris. He's another gay man. I'm just gonna like lift up my LGBTQ community. Lee Harris, his website is, or his YouTube is like Lee Harris Astrology, or sorry, Lee Harris Energy. I still can't find that older woman yet, but if I find her name, I'll let you know. So maybe I'll share one of her videos. You watch my page, right? You follow my page, Divine Androgen's page. I have no idea what just happened, but Mercury is definitely going into retrograde. No, you didn't lose connection, Melissa. Oh man, that was hilarious. I have no idea what just happened, really. So, um, I have no clue. But somehow my browser closed, but I stayed connected. So anyway, make sure that you're all taking care of yourself. Do something good for yourself. This is not you, Melissa. It's me. That's why I'm laughing. It's Mercury in retrograde. So you see how there's two different ways to do astrology. You can get worried. There's some types of astrologers out there that are more like, that you might feel fearful. And sometimes that happens to me, but then I come back to this is meant to happen. I chose to be here at this time. There's a reason I'm here. Keep going, go forward. And that's kind of how I reassure myself. And then I just think, well, just be prepared. I mean, it doesn't mean the whole world's going to fall apart when Mercury's retrograde. It just means that, something will probably break. Like I'm thinking my computer might do something crazy, or I probably need to trade it in, but now I've waited too long and I'm not sure if I should just go for it or wait till Mercury's done retrograde. That's where I'm at right now because my computer's been acting stupid. I'm grateful Bright Hawk has another computer, so if it was really bad, I could use hers. And so, there's a, you can get caught up in the fear, or you can know that it's happening and just decide to go through it, go in the flow of things and just be in the flow, right? Okay. So, I just kind of laugh at it, know that it's happening, and try not to get caught up in it. But sometimes I do get caught up in whatever is happening, and maybe there's a reason that it's unwinding that way. And I just try to remind myself that even if it's unclear to me, whether it's clear to me or not, no doubt the universe is unfolding exactly as it should. Okay. So, that's another astrologer you should check out. That quote always makes me think of Anne Ortley, who is an older woman. I'm pretty sure she's an ally, and she is some not always consistent about her posting, but she is one of the best predictive astrologers, and she talks about politics. Okay. All right. All right, everyone. Well, I hope that you will enjoy the rest of your evening. I'm going to head out. It was great hanging out with you guys tonight. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate you guys showing up on this void moon. Right? All right, all of you. I hope you enjoy the rest of your night. Take care of yourselves. Be good to yourself. See you next time.
Are you seeking guidance on your spiritual journey? Need help with a vexing problem? Missing a loved one and looking for answers? Look no further than Psychic Insights, a small trusted psychic service offering mediums, psychics, and spiritual coaching. This service is managed by Hollis Taylor, a gifted psychic medium, astrologer, and a compassionate coach. We are dedicated to helping you navigate your spiritual awakening. At Psychic Insights, we provide medium readings and psychic insight to help you plan for tomorrow and make choices for today. Find the support you need, compassionate grief coaching, and astrological insights to help you spiritually grow and transform. Our professional services include well-managed schedules, recorded sessions, and reliable psychic mediums, ready to facilitate your transformational experience. Discover more at psychicinsights.life.